As usual, a lot is going on in the world, so we've got a lot of things happening, and of course, we've got a number of things happening, including Kim Calhoun getting ready to go to Syria Week, and all along those lines. So we do know there's a lot of things happening in the world, including a candidate that has decided that they do not want to be a part of the No Labels campaign, and all along those lines. So I did see that when I was looking through some news briefs. So another potential candidate has said that they definitely do not like the direction the country is going, but that they are not willing to be part of a No Label. So former Georgia Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, a Republican, on Monday announced he would not be launching a third party presidential bid backed by the group No Labels, making another setback, according to the Huffington Post, for that particular group and all along those lines. But he did say it was an honor to be approached, and I'm grateful to all those who are engaged in good faith efforts to offer Americans a better choice than the Trump versus Biden rematch. And definitely, he said that in a statement to the Atlanta Journal Constitution. In addition to my private sector career and earning a living for my family of five, I am focused on healing and improving the Republican Party with a GOP 2.0 so we can elect more common sense conservative candidates in the future, he added. So definitely it looks like he had been recruited to serve on a unity presidential ticket as an alternative to the 2020 rematch between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. And by the way, I'm hoping to see if he'll come in here. Maybe he can tell us whether he's going to go to this event or not. But I just recently learned that Jill Biden, the first lady, will be making a stop here in Durham, I believe it is, where she'll be speaking on women's rights and women's reproductive health. And I believe that that event is supposed to be taking place on tomorrow, on Wednesday. And I also think that sometime this week, both Biden, actually that's next week, both Biden and Harris are supposed to be making a stop in North Carolina. And I think they're still trying to figure out where that location will be. Just like they're being a little bit hush on where she will be making her stop. The she that I'm referring to being Jill Biden. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that space and what folks do in that regard. So definitely we'll be paying attention to that part of the world and seeing what folks have to say about that and any thoughts that they may have around that particular notion and everything. So definitely a lot of people are paying attention to that potential development that is getting ready to take place. So we'll definitely be paying attention to how that goes. And like I said, we're anxiously waiting to hear about Zero Week and all along those lines. And I understand we may have some visitors coming in the not too distant future that can tell us more about this exciting event happening in Houston, Texas. So we're definitely looking forward to hearing that and how that all goes along. So it'll be quite fascinating. And I'm sure that Kim Calhoun will have some thoughts around that, as will Nick Palveda, the founders of this lovely network, and all in that space. I also heard recently, and I can't wait to hear what Sasha has to say about this, but apparently in one of his remarks, former President Trump has said that anybody that is Jewish American that votes for the Democratic ticket is basically being a traitor to their cause or something along those lines, is the way he phrased it and everything. So definitely, I think that we have some members on this panel, including Rick Rosner, I believe Sasha Starr, that are members of the Jewish faith. But like I said, they live in different places and maybe they agree, maybe they disagree, but we'll find out what their thoughts are because I did see that in some of the campaign rhetoric that was coming out of the Trump campaign and all along those lines. Apparently, Hong Kong has passed a second national security law, widening its crackdown powers and aligning the city more closely with mainland China. So it does look like Hong Kong is definitely going more in lockstep with the mainland China. So they have approved a new national security law that apparently is worrying foreign executives. And Israel is sending a delegation to DC after the White House blasted a lack of a coherent strategy. So it looks like the prime minister has told lawmakers in Israel that he will go into Rafah despite the U.S. request. And Netanyahu says that factions in Israel are cooperating with the U.S. to prevent the operation in Rafah. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out as well. And apparently, a Rwanda bill could become law without independent scrutiny, says a watchdog group. So that is something that is going on in the UK. And the UK is closer to passing a Rwanda asylum law after the changes were overturned. And apparently, Rishi Sunak risks losing key votes on this particular Rwanda bill. And like I said earlier, Trump in his statement says any Jewish person who votes for Democrats hates their religion. That was the exact quote, and everything along those lines. So definitely it'll be interesting to see what folks have to say about that as well. And Russia is slamming the Western critics of the presidential election. So Putin is urging Russians to unite on the Ukraine war. So he's telling them that they need to unite around this particular war that he's got going in with Ukraine. So that is something he is saying. And I also heard that he is running the possibility of talking about even us going into World War III. So he did mention that, I believe, in his victory speech and all along those lines. And for those who've been following the Israel situation, apparently, according to the White House, the Hamas #2 leader is dead. And definitely that is looking like that is something that is going on as well. So it is definitely has been reported dead. And National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan confirmed that Israel killed that top Hamas commander. So definitely we'll see how this all plays out. And this starts us to get a situation where we can start having an end at that particular conflict. And unfortunately, for those that are in the Asian part of the world's 100 worst polluted cities are in Asia, and 83 of them are just in one country. So it looks like Bangladesh, Pakistan, and India had the world's worst air pollution in 2023. So definitely that is something that I'm sure the folks in the Asian part of the world will have to be thinking about as well and trying to figure out ways to improve that. Who knows? Maybe they'll even use some ways that come out of this energy conference and all in that space. And Blinken has warned China against armed attacks on the Philippines. So China blasted the U.S. declaration of ironclad alliance with the Philippines. And definitely it looks like according to Blinken, the U.S. Philippine alliance is ironclad. So that's one of the things that we are seeing. And if you follow things that are on the African continent, you do know that there are certain traditions that have been there for years and everything. But apparently, some of these traditions have been dealing with a political ramification. So in Gambia, Parliament moves toward overturning a ban on female genital cutting. So Gambia's first female genital mutilation bill has come out there, and Gambia could be the first country to reverse that ban on that particular tradition and all along those lines. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes and what folks have to say about countries that are making choices about women's bodies in one form or a fashion or another, even in other parts of the world as well. And if you're wondering about some health or weather news, Iceland's volcano is still pouring out fountains of lava. So we're hearing that as well. So definitely we're hearing a lot of things where that is going on. And in Russia, like I said, we've still got that war, but Russia says it will evacuate 9,000 children from a border region targeted from the Ukrainian side. So drones and shelling hit Russia's Belgorod amid 3 days of border skirmishes. So definitely, like I said, there's a lot of things that are going on, including the fact that an Al Jazeera journalist was freed after a 12-hour arrest by Israeli forces in Gaza. So definitely, there's a lot of things happening in the world and a lot of things happening in the United States as well. Just get ready to get to a few of those. Then I'll bring in our illustrious panel as well and see what they've got to say. But China begins evicting migrants from shelters as the residents are decrying a lack of respect. So definitely the first day of migrant evictions has led to confusion, and only 3 have been removed from shelters. So the Chicago area has evicted migrants from the North Elston shelter, the Gage Park Fieldhouse, and the Wadesworth shelter, as the city has announced some new rules in that space. And definitely Raleigh Strain's parents slammed the Nashville cops for the slow investigation, as it revealed that the homeless man that was involved in that was definitely noticeable and all along those lines. So definitely we're going to save some people having some conversations around gun control and other things in the sense of that way. So definitely there are a lot of folks are trying to figure out what we know about the college student who disappeared in Nashville. So you just don't vanish like he has. So, they talk about people going off the grid, and maybe this is what is going on in this space. But the search has scaled back 10 days after Riley Strain's disappearance. So he has disappeared, and maybe he's just finding a way to get off the grid. And if you're wondering about Trump aide, Peter Navarro, he's headed into prison after his historic contempt prosecution. So Navarro's bid to stave off his jail sentence was denied at the Supreme Court. So that's something else that we are seeing in the news as well. And 6 ex-police officers are to be sentenced in a Mississippi torture case. So the day of justice has come, as 2 African-American men were tortured by 6 law enforcement officers, and they spoke before that sentence hearing. So definitely it looks like there will be some pleading going on in that space as well. So we'll see out what happens in that regards and what goes on just in general. But like I said, going to bring in my fine folks and see what they've got to say about a number of these stories, including the fact that the Democrats are talking about being accused of meddling in Republican primaries. For young Republicans voting for the first time, the GOP Trump is their GOP experience, is what some folks are saying. And Donald Trump is testing his endorsement powers in a key 2024 Ohio race. So we're going to see how this all plays out, and all in that kind of way. And there may be some closure in a missing persons case, because a blanket belonging to a missing Wisconsin 3-year-old has been found almost 1 month after his disappearance. So hopefully they will be able to close that case in some form or fashion in the not too distant future, and all along those lines. But like I said, a lot's going on, and it'll be interesting to see what my folks have got to say about this and a number of other things that are taking place as well. So like I said, going to bring in the folks and see what they've got to say in this case and what their whole notion is, and all along those lines. So I'll bring in Rick Rosner first, and of course I've got Kim Calhoun and a number of others with me as well. But there is Rick Rosner, there's Kim Calhoun, and like I said, we've got other people that'll be joining us as well. We're looking forward to Sarah Week, like I mentioned earlier. So I know we've got that going on, and I see we've got Isaiah, and he's on mute.
Good morning, Isaiah.
And we've also got Christina.
Hi, great day.
Hi, Christina. Hi. How is it? How is it there in Houston, Texas today?
I can't really hear you guys too well just because it's so loud, but it's been great.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. I just had a meeting with the Colombian president, the former Colombian president, Ivan Duque, and it's really wonderful to learn about all the initiatives that they're trying to do to help the environment, and with the hydrogen and making the mining a circular economy. So it's really interesting to see how all the UN development goals are being implemented by all the industries around here.
Oh, that is awesome. Christina, what is your thoughts? Where are you at right now? What location?
Hang on 1 second, I'll show you.
Oh, nice.
Yes, I'm trying to get my AirPods in so I can hear you guys a little bit better. Hang on 1 second.
Okay, Isaiah, where are you at? Are you in the same location?
Yes, we're nearby. I'll show you. Let me see if I can. How do I rotate this camera?
Okay, that's better.
So
Okay.
I'll show like this. So everybody.
So that looks like Agora. Is that Agora?
Yes, this is the Agora Center, where all the startups and all the innovation of Sierra Week is happening.
I love it. I love it. There, check out some of the safety gear there. You will just be totally fascinated by some of the things that they have there. Isaiah just shared with us some of the fascinating things that he's done. What are some for you? Oops. Okay. So these are some of the reasons why I kind of wanted to get them online today so that we could work out some of the kinks and filming there when we're there. Sometimes the internet is a bit choppy. The noise is definitely a little overwhelming at times. It's hard to hear everyone. But we also have Nick in the house. Hello, Nick. I want you to meet our two industrious team members out there for Pod TV at Houston Sarah Week. SNP
Yeah,
Global.
some case it's a little loud, so I can actually shut off the microphone. But that's okay. Just let them know that that's what's going on. But I can also bring them back.
No, I did have a quick question for Christina if she can hear us, because definitely I heard Isaiah mention that he had met the gentleman that was the former leader of Colombia, and I was just wondering who are some of the folks that you have met so far, because I do know it's a major energy conference. So I was just wondering what some of the things you have
Hi, Mark.
you met and who's some of the people you have learned from.
Yeah, so he actually flew in a little earlier than I did, so this is basically my day one. But right now I'm trying to get us set up for tomorrow for the media booth and make sure we have some banners, some signage, and some people to talk to. So yeah, we'll be working on that all day today.
Thank you so much. Keep up the good work. And, there is so much to learn there. And, just make sure you go meet, try to get to know some of the ambassadors. Christina, I know that you've been working on getting your credentials. That's a lot of work and a lot of effort, and I commend you for that. Isaiah, make sure you keep meeting some of those international people. There's a lot going on in alternative energy, and I want to hear some feedback on that. We'll get you guys on the TV show when I get there, and we'll start sharing with the world what you're learning. This is awesome. What an experience.
Definitely. I can't wait.
Any questions for the two?
Well, just let them know that we broadcast every morning at 10 o'clock our time, which is 9 o'clock your time. So you can always interrupt World Edition, which you're interrupting right now, which is okay. And then Tuesday, tonight, I think tonight at 5 o'clock we have World Politics, which would be 4 o'clock your time. So you could hop in on that. The other producers may be mad if you just hop in on their shows.
Rick Rosner is host of Naked at Night. Hi, Rick. Rick, do you have any questions for our Sarah Week trip?
I'm barely awake.
Hi, Rick.
Hello, it's 7 a.m. on the West Coast.
Well, and Rick also does the late night TV show. So he's doing normal hours. But thank you guys so much. Do you have any questions for us?
Yes, amazing. I have no questions, but I definitely want to get involved in the women's leadership and that dinner that's going on tomorrow night. So when we meet up again, hopefully I have some more feedback and more contacts and content for our show.
Okay, so they didn't send me an RSVP, so it's probably just open. But snoop around and make sure, if you could, get my name on the list too, because I'll be in travel mode here real soon. My travel is a little bit different than what I had planned on, but I will be there tomorrow after the lunch. So hopefully we can sit down around 2:30 and figure all this out.
Oh, Christina,
Perfect.
You're coming in clear. Isaiah has a lot of feedback, but he's also on the road. Okay,
Well, yeah, I
you're
think it's because I put
coming
my
in very
earpods
clear.
in.
Christina,
Okay, yeah, you're coming in really clear. So
yeah,
just
I'm going to
let you
pack some headsets.
Jacoby's
That
gonna
just
join
reminded
us,
me. I'm going to pack headsets for the guest. Hi,
All
Jacoby.
right, yeah. Headsets for the guest is a good idea because there's
Do
a
you
lot of
also have
background
any?
noise. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Do you also have any gimbals that you could bring?
No, but I do
Yeah,
have
they
some stands for the phones, and we'll just film from the phones.
Perfect. So what I'm going to do today when I go to pick up some of the print materials, I'm going to see if I could grab some extra ones.
Okay, I have 2. So if you can maybe get 2 more, that would be good. But the phone stands, and they go about 5 foot. They're 5 foot high. So and I need to remember to pack the lighting. So but check out the lighting at the booths for me if you don't mind, because they're different every year.
No problem.
Yeah.
This is the
And then
production
what you do,
of going to CERAWeek. We just, have to go with the flow. Make sure if you get to see Jeff Martin to tell him hello and thank you. He should be in the media center. Pop in and introduce yourselves to Jeff Martin. He heads up the whole conference.
Will do. I think we actually saw him over at the Senator's press conference yesterday, which was great. That was as soon as I flew in and got my credentials. But he was being bombarded at the time, so we'll have to go back and have a conversation with him.
Yeah, this has changed considerably since my first time, I think 8 years ago. This has really grown. They've met capacity this year, which is he's excited about. So don't forget, that there are some great people there. You might want to go check out the Japanese session. They're a lot of fun. I've sat in on their nuclear power session in the past, and it's really cool. And then there's a Houston project over in Agora, which would be good for you guys to check out as well, because it talks about all the funding that they're doing for all of these new innovations. So I think that would be a good thing to get some word on. Fred Krupp has probably got the largest amount of funding money for government projects. So I highly recommend catching a session with him as well.
Perfect. Yes. We'll see you all later and talk more about CERAWeek. Thank you.
Yes. Bye. Nice to meet everyone.
Wonderful day.
Have fun.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. Wow, I'm excited.
they all disappeared. Where'd they go?
Oh, they had to go. We're not really supposed to be like on. I mean, we've in Media Row we can. And in certain sections, like I think Agora, but we have to be very, very careful. They don't want any live video footages in any of the session rooms or in the lobby areas, mainly because of some of the people that are there. So we have to we had to have permission to go to the senators meeting. We had to have pre-approval RSVPs. I mean, this is very tight security. People have no idea how invested this is for some of the world leaders. It's like Isaiah said, he met the former president of Colombia who is there. You're going to see presidents of other countries there. You're going to meet tons of ambassadors, our senators, our governors show up. It's huge. It's just a marvelous time to get to learn what's really going on, not from the media input. Most of those people aren't even there and they just throw things out of their mouths, but from the real people who are doing regulations, standards, what's really coming down in the future, what's happening today. I mean, it's just wonderful to hear it from them.
I'm wondering if someday that CERAWeek will expand beyond their concentration on energy and do like Davos does and have a more of a global economic reach, because right now their main focus is energy.
Well, if you look, not 100% right now, because this year they added a financial aspect to it, and not just funding, but just financial aspect. I truly believe, because a lot of questions that are coming out now is what is the financial impact, the economic impact of some of the decisions being made. And so I think that might be a goal based on some of the teams that I've seen them pull together for some of the sessions, which I will miss this year. But I do intend on jumping on board throughout the year on some of their sessions, because they do some of these throughout the year.
Yeah, because Sasha's interest is how does this affect NVIDIA stock? And if energy doesn't affect NVIDIA stock, he doesn't really care. Where Davos, they tend to be, even though this is the second largest economic conference in the world, Davos seems to be more well-rounded than CERAWeek. Yeah, Rick.
Energy does affect AI and NVIDIA, or at least increasingly will in the future, because AI will reduce energy consumption in a lot of areas with telecommuting, but AI itself eats up a ton of energy. It's the computer.
I want to add something to that, Rick, is Bitcoin in itself and any of those kind of machines use up more energy than any air conditioner in any facility. Processing and mining for Bitcoins and payment systems through that uses a ton of energy. In fact, I used to joke, I used to think that the energy companies created this.
But
Because
just really quickly, Kim, just along those same lines, because I know in the past, and I brought it up on one of our other shows, that I did not get the impression, and Sasha can correct me if I'm wrong, that Sasha was big on investment in the energy space, because I believe that was part of the disagreement, and I can use that term that he had with Peter. And I know that both of them have shows here on the network and everything, but I'm just wondering, am I correct in thinking that you are not a fan of the investment in energy? Because I think even in modern investment, you said a couple of times that that is not a field that you are big on, and I was just wondering why you're not big on that.
The energy investment is a very, very specialized area. It's very complicated area because we don't know the forces, the market forces, which affect the formation of the prices for whether it's oil or gas or anything like that. The consumption is on the rise usually, but again, even that, if there is a huge supply, that doesn't lead to necessarily higher prices. So this is speculate on prices of energy. It's extremely difficult in specialized area to buy companies, whether it's Occidental Petroleum, or you can go to Exxon or Chevron or something like this. Again, it depends of the market cycle, depends where you are. NVIDIA is much more exciting project. I just saw the interview of Jim Cramer with Jensen, the CEO of NVIDIA, and essentially they are producing now the chips that cost millions of dollars, and they are size that you can hardly hold it in your hand, and they're multiprocessors which cost tens of billions of dollars to develop, and NVIDIA basically has a monopoly of that. And what they're doing to satisfy many customers is they're dividing their computing power and their complete systems into parts of that, so they could supply necessary parts to other companies like maybe AMD and maybe others, so they could satisfy their needs in that sphere. And right now, it appears to me that NVIDIA is beyond the reach of anybody.
Yeah, that makes a
I've
lot of
been
sense.
getting out of oil companies dropping their stocks just because they're not good guys.
Hey, just really quickly.
Well, that's not their job, is to be good guys. If you ever saw the interview with the head of Exxon Mobil, he said, because they were talking about the left coast and all their parties, he goes, "We're not in the party business. We're in the business to make a profit."
Yeah, but
and
I mean,
they just have a different attitude. Their attitude is they're there to serve the shareholders and make sure people like Sasha and me, we get dividends, not to provide foosball tables for people in San Francisco.
They've been ripping off California for decades with their, they'll strategically shut down refineries so they can gouge us on the special California gas mixes that we're required to have so we don't get overly smoggy. I mean, and they lied about climate change for decades. They knew it was coming, and I mean, I know that it's business is business, but I don't know. I feel like in the future, when looking back, and that owning oil is going to be looked at as one of the things that was, I don't know, just kind of gross.
Okay, but this is a quick question for everybody, including you, Nick, and Sasha. And when I visited, Kim was still here and everything, because I know a lot of times, even with the oil industry, there's been this notion of social impact and whether impact is important. And one of the things you were just saying, Nick, is that a lot of times the oil companies are concerned more about their bottom line and could care less about the social impact of their decisions. And that's been a discussion. It might even be a discussion that comes up in CERAWeek, but I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts around that, because I do know that sometimes that industry, as well as other industries, have gotten in trouble because they were not necessarily doing what folks thought were socially impactful.
Well, the thing is, that's not the job of the company. The job of the company is to drive home profits for the shareholders. And if you want social impact, go talk to Jatovi. He'll tell you all about social impact, but that doesn't put money in my pocket. So I don't know why you have a problem with this. You know, I mean, that's the nature of the beast of a corporation, is to provide for their shareholders, not provide social impact. So,
Jatovi, what's your take on that? Because you know where I'm going. Because there have been some companies, including some of the oil companies, that have gotten in trouble because of their oil spills and other things that they've done, including where they have placed some of their material and some of their hiring practices and everything. So, what's your take on that,
oil spills? I mean, Nick is
they're not trying to do oil spills on purpose. That's bad for business.
Nick is right. They don't care about they don't care about what it does to the environment. Heck, that's what the Keystone Pipeline was all about. They didn't care about what is going through. Oil spills happen regularly. I mean, we had what was it in Ohio where the train blew up and it had chemicals, oil on the inside. They don't care. Heck, Flint, Michigan can tell you that they don't care. They just want profits. They want money.
It's the cost of doing business. You know,
I have a great investment opportunity for everybody here and anybody listening. Trump can't get a bond to cover his $460 million appeal in his real estate fraud case, but I have offered Donald Trump $200,000 cash to make a sex tape with Melania at Mar-a-Lago. And
did he take you up on it?
Well, I think 200,000 is a little light for his, his taste and his needs. But if you guys invest and we can get it up to closer to $500,000, he might go for it.
Well, he does have some serious problems in terms of his legals and everything. But as y'all noticed, I mentioned in the news before we had the conversation from CERAWeek, and I did say I was going to bring it up to both you and Rick and Sasha. But Mr. Trump, former President Trump, is trying to make this notion that if you are Jewish and you vote for the Biden camp and everything, you are anti-Israel and you are anti-Jewish, that you are basically being a sellout to your own crowd.
Three quarters of American Jewish voters are Democrats. And I don't know, like less than 15%, I think, are that. Don't hold me to that second statistic, are Republican voters. But we're people like everybody else, and we can deplore the situation on both sides of the Gaza deal, though obviously the Gazans are at this point suffering more than, with 31,000 dead compared to 1,200 slaughtered by Hamas. The suffering is bigger on the Palestinian side now.
So think of the irony of this. First off, to touch on the reason he can't get a bond right now is also, I think, the reason that Paul Manafort is back with Trump, because I think Manafort is going to back the 400 and some odd million that he needs to get for the bond. Therefore, we're not going to know where the money comes from, so he can't admit that it comes from either a Russian oligarch or somebody else who owns him. So that's why Manafort is back in there. But to talk on his comments on the Jewish piece, it is ironic that a man who has dinner with Nick Fuentes, quotes Adolf Hitler, says that you're not Jewish and you hate Israel if you don't vote for me.
And Trump also said that Hitler did a lot of good things. And I'm wondering, what are those good things that Hitler did? Especially for Jewish people, I'm wondering.
Well, you have to understand his son-in-law is Jewish, but people don't want to bring that up.
That doesn't matter.
Oh, why doesn't it matter? I mean, why do you disclose, counselor? Why do you disclose half the facts and leave the other half off the table?
So,
disclose all the facts.
Counselor,
And then
I
at least explain the facts.
shall explain that easily.
Yeah, explain why that doesn't matter, Jatovi. Talk to me.
It doesn't matter because, as an example, Clarence Thomas votes against a lot of things that could help the Black community. There are individuals within the Jewish community that actually actively fight against positive things for the Jewish community. It's not like, oh, well, hey, he has a Jewish son, so therefore he must really love people or Jewish individuals. It doesn't work.
But Toby, isn't that like one of those old sayings that people used to say all the time, which is that if you had one Black friend and you were apparently a friend of the African American community, we know that was a trope that used to exist out there for years. People would be like, I can't be racist because I've got a African American friend and everything.
Yeah,
but that's
Trump used it at his rally. Hey, that's my African American over there. Seriously? That's what you consider to make you a man of the people, is that you call, hey, that's my African American friend, therefore I can't be racist, even though I'm retweeting white supremacists. Yeah, it don't work that way. Don't work that way.
He likes to embrace all forms of people, from the white supremacists to Black leaders. Well, I don't see where you have a problem with this diversity, equity, and inclusion, Jatovi. He is a big leader of DEI, and you're bashing Trump. I don't get it.
Yeah, his DEI is wanting minorities in chains. That's his diversity.
Oh.
When you're sitting there saying, hey, I will retweet white supremacists, I will also put some highly bigoted people on my board or on my in my council, like a Stephen Miller or a Steve Bannon, and allow these individuals to decide for me what I need to say. Hence the reason why he's saying the Proud Boys are his people. The Proud Boys are a racist group of individuals that hate minorities. Therefore, this DEI, his equality that he's seeking, is for these white supremacists to lead all these minorities back to chains.
Trump likes minorities in their place. He was first investigated by the FBI for he and his dad for for not renting to Black people. Started in 1972 and then sued by the Department of Justice, and they settled. And then when he had the casinos, he found out that somebody in his accounting department was Black, and he's like, oh, no, I want the yarmulke people doing my bookkeeping.
Not to mention, he took the Black people off being actually dealers. Remember,
right? He didn't want any Black faces, public-facing faces in his casinos.
Yep.
Yeah, Sasha.
Okay. Yesterday, I had about half an hour conversation with our friends from Israel, whom we traveled together to South America before the COVID, and we. At some point we started to talk about politics, and she said that, look, you are outside of Israel. You don't even understand what the issues Israel is dealing now. Actually, her son is in the army. Sorry, grandson is in the army right now. So I asked, okay, describe please the issues. She said that, look, right now, Israel is unable to make any peace while the hostages are not released and while the Hamas is still running the Gaza in any form. On the other hand, there is a threat from the north of Hezbollah. And for Israel, although there is perceived the military advantage of Israel over all those forces, but this is once put to test, it's might be questionable. And if you take a situation from the real political point of view, number one question is Israeli army capable, or Israel society as a whole, capable of fighting and prevailing against both Gaza, Hamas, and Hezbollah in the north. And this is a big question because before it will be tested really on a battlefield, you cannot come to the conclusion. So Israeli society is now facing a dilemma whether not to test this and make some kind of a peace, even lousy peace, with Gaza, with Hezbollah, or whoever there still is, or to test it. And to test it, it could require enormous sacrifices on Israeli side and on the other sides as well. And this is where a dilemma is, and it's unresolved. And it's not an issue of Netanyahu, because most of Israelis, a huge majority, want to perhaps the things that could not be achieved at the same time. One, they all want a release of hostages, number one. And at the same time, number two, and for many people it's number one, is to prevail and destroy Hamas leadership of Gaza. And how combine and do both, it's remains to be seen. It's they don't see it, how to achieve both, and nobody sees it. And maybe what Biden did to invite Netanyahu representatives to work out some kind of a new plan where to continue military moves against Hamas and at the same time stop killing of civilians, especially women and children, as much as it's possible to achieve. It's not also easy question because, there are new information that a lot of fire is coming from the hospitals and the doctors themselves. They're all armed and they are fighting Israelis. So, okay, you can say that they're not terrorists, they're freedom fighters, or they're there to defend maybe their patients. Yeah, you can say that just as well. But situation is really grotesque, and one way or another, it has to come to some conclusion. I don't know what is the right way.
I've read that despite all the killing and all the misery in Gaza, that Hamas is still largely intact, that less than 13,000 out of maybe 30,000 Hamas have been killed, but that still leaves more than half out there fighting, and that the tunnels under Rafah are particularly deep, and it'll be hard to eradicate Hamas, to get in there or to blast them out of there. And if they do start blasting Rafah, then Egypt has threatened invasion via Hezbollah, which Israel would have a hard time holding off, fighting on to the north and in Gaza to the south.
The strategy has to change because Hamas not only is an organization, but it is also an idea. And when you're fighting an idea and you're just being seen as killing and murdering and being the hostile one, because you have the right to respond. So if somebody hits you, you definitely have the right to respond, but you also have to remember the way you respond is also how you're going to be seen as well. So if somebody, like if Mark were to be hit in the jaw by somebody and Mark goes out and takes a hammer and starts killing the dude, we're going to look at Mark differently, and not that he was justified in the way that he responded. And that's what's going on now, is that, yes, Israel had the right to respond. They have to be able to defend themselves. And everybody in the world is asking Israel to go about it in a different way, because just bombing Rafah at this point, just as they bombed everybody else, you're going to drop bombs on millions of people just to get, as Rick pointed out, what's that, 17,000 people? Because he said 13 out of the 30. Mm-hmm. So 17,000 people that are hidden under tunnels up under millions. And so you're going to kill millions of individuals that are also going to, you've already killed 30,000 of
Jacoby, along those same lines. So
the strategy itself has to change.
And Jacoby, along those same lines, just really quickly, because one of the things that I'm concerned about, and I don't know if you have the same concern, Rick kind of alluded to it and everything, which is that even if you get a senior leadership, because as you heard me report earlier, they got the number 2 leader and everything. But if you keep doing this kind of bombing and everything, and the humanitarian aid and other things that don't come through, then you're in the danger of radicalizing those that might not have been radicalized in the first place and everything. So that's one of my fears, that now you're going to radicalize some people that may not have even thought about being radicalized.
I mean, how can people not? I mean, not everybody's going to be radicalized, but everybody has the experience base to become potentially radicalized, because there's nobody in Gaza who hasn't been displaced.
And that's why I said at the beginning that, you know, Hamas, yes, is an organization, but it's also an idea. And if that idea is within that community, that these are the individuals, we even have an old saying. There's an old adage. You stick with the devil that you know and not the devil that you don't know. So right now, when you're bombing them and you're only seeing outside, if people started, if you know, okay, I'm living in a neighborhood that has, you know, gang members and everything else, and yeah, sure, there's shootouts, but if the cops come in and start killing everybody around me just because they're going after one person, and I don't understand this, and then I'm going to say, okay, well, these cops are bad. I need to hang out with these gang members more because they're the ones who are protecting me more so than these cops. So what's going on there is you got that situation, that you've got that situation on a grandiose scale where these people of Gaza are being starved, and all they see are the people of Israel not helping me with food, but actually aiming guns at me and telling me and not helping me from this individual who's robbing me. So the strategy has to change. We have to change our ideas around how we're going to attack the situation, how we're going to not only extend a hand to the innocent individuals that need help and need to be re-educated. Oh, there was a matter of fact, Fareed Zakaria there's a documentary that he had pointed out where they were pulling people out of North Korea. And there was they did an interview with this elderly lady. It was her daughter who finally got her out of North Korea. She was in front of the interviewer. They were asking her, she's out of North Korea now. They were asking her about Kim Jong-un and how she was treated there. And they wanted her to be honest. Her first inclination is that, hey, I'm going to lie because these guys are the devil. They're going to kill me. So she told a lie about it, and she was actually praising the situation in North Korea. But then her daughter stepped in and said, hey, Mom, you're safe here. You're okay. You can be honest. And so when that came about, she took a chance, and she took a chance and actually spoke out about it and spoke out about the trouble, how horrible it is in North Korea and the being ruled up under Kim Jong-un. And she actually, because she felt that safety and because they extended that hand and didn't say, okay, you got to answer this question now, she was able to be honest and actually changed her mindset. And that's what we have to do.
But we have no power over Netanyahu, and Netanyahu has little incentive to change his strategy.
Yep.
Even if the U.S. cut off aid, which we probably wouldn't, we've never cut off aid to Israel. They have plenty of arms. They have 300,000 troops. So, I mean, they have plenty of arms to fight Gaza. I don't know if they can fight wars to the north and the south simultaneously as well, but like Netanyahu's going to do what he's going to prosecute the war. And then when the war ends, he'll probably get kicked out. And then that's how you fight radicalization, is in the peace, is you come in and do what we did after we conquered Germany, which was help Germany rebuild. You know, after World War I, we effed over Germany with the treaty and made it miserable for them. After World War II, we learned that was a bad idea, and we helped Germany rebuild. Germany became a good citizen and a healthy economy.
Netanyahu actually did an interview with Dana Bash this past Sunday, and he was actually asked, would you commit to an election as the war winds down or when the war ends? He wouldn't do that. He kept talking about the people don't want to do this. Why are you asking? And he kept going on some filibuster tirade and changing the subject. He even talked about, oh, well, the polls. She brought up the fact that 64% in one of their major polls want an election when the war ends. And he couldn't commit to it. He wouldn't commit to it. So yeah, Rick, what you're saying,
let's be precise for the record, because I saw that interview.
Mm-hmm.
She was drilling him if there would be an election while the war not ends.
No, Sasha.
Winds down.
I can bring it up right now. I actually have it recorded, and we can watch it. We can watch her question. Her question was, would you commit to an election when the war winds down? That
exactly. That's what I said. Not when the war ends, when the war winds down. And she grilled him 6 or 7 times with the same question. Not when the war. Election after the war ends is one story. Election when the war winds down. What means winds down? Is it already winding down? Or it's going to be winding down in 1 month or 6 weeks or so? Her question was very imprecise.
No,
and that's why
he didn't commit to it when the war ends, because she even asked him that.
No, it's a different story. You just said yourself when the war.
Sasha, I hate to correct you again.
Listen several times. Remember the difference.
Did you want to see it?
Yes, I want to see it right now.
All right, pulling it up right now. Let me go ahead. Where is it? Shows recorded. State of the Union. Right there. Hold on. Pulling it up now.
We're taking a break from the war. Is that what we're doing?
No, he's going to show something
about the war between Jatovia and Sasha.
Sasha is unwilling to accept that.
Well, I mean, but Netanyahu's cabinet has a lot of crazy hardliners.
But what is happening, and the reason why the world is shifting in public sentiment, is the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Organizations call what they are seeing near famine in Gaza. So why won't you allow more food trucks to drive through the border crossings into Gaza to feed starving civilians while you continue to take out the terrorists in Hamas?
Did we want to start this part, or did we want to go to where she asked the question?
Our policy is to not to have famine, but to have the entry of humanitarian support as needed and as much as is needed. So we've created alternative routes, supply routes. We allow the dropping of the support from the air, humanitarian aid, a sea route that we've cooperated with, and it started yesterday. And alternative land routes that we're enabling again. The problem isn't getting the trucks in. The problem is that once they're getting in, they're looted by Hamas or looted by gangs. And what we're trying to do with some other powers is to try to get the aid to the actual civilians who need them and not looted by Hamas. That's really the problem.
Well,
in any case, that's our policy. And that's why I've enabled alternative routes of supply.
Okay. There's been a trickle, I mean, to be fair, of supply going in there. And every major NGO, outside organization involved with this crisis says that the level of hunger is life-threatening for hundreds of thousands. Cindy McCain, McCain family, they have been long supporters of Israel. She is now the executive director of the World Food Program. She said that hunger has reached catastrophic levels in northern Gaza. People are dying. Only a fraction of the food needed is trickling. To prevent an outright famine, they need significant increase in humanitarian aid now. Millions of lives are at stake. Will you do that? Will you commit to that?
Of course, and we're doing it. Again, I've authorized alternative routes of supply. And again, the problem is not the number of trucks going in, although we're increasing it on a daily basis. I think the problem is preventing the looting by Hamas and by others. That's what we're working on now. I think it's a cooperative effort. Our policy is to enable humanitarian aid. That's been a constant element in our whole program. It's to destroy Hamas militarily, but also to supply the humanitarian aid simultaneously. Though, sir,
it's not
happening. And the main
happening.
obstacle to that is actually Hamas.
It's not happening. Well, in the north, you said that you've destroyed Hamas. If Hamas isn't in the north, then how is Hamas taking away food? And if you open up more border crossings and give more food into the area, allow starving people to eat, the looting maybe would subside. That's human nature, no?
That's exactly what's happening, because we have increased the number of trucks entering the north. I think I'm up to date, and I know these numbers, and we know that there is an increase, but we also know that we have a job to do to prevent the looting, because at the end we bring in the trucks, including to the north, and then they're looted by remaining Hamas terrorists. We've destroyed the fighting formations of Hamas, the terrorist battalions, but there's still individual terrorists that we're mopping up.
And I
these
understand
individual
that.
terrorists shoot the drivers, take over the goods, and try to give it to Hamas fighters, the remaining Hamas fighters. So it's an ongoing battle.
I understand
but
that.
It's something
but
that
you
we're
understand that
committed
it
to.
is the
Two efforts that we're
responsibility.
committed to. Destroying Hamas and giving humanitarian aid.
Forgive me. I understand that. Given the images that I'm sure you have seen, do you believe fundamentally that it is Israel's responsibility to make sure that those starving civilians, including those children, get food, and you're doing everything in your power to make sure that happens?
Categorically, yes. I think it's an effort that we're engaged in all the time. I think that Hamas is working on the opposite effort. One, to get people not to leave war zones. They want more civilian casualties. We want to minimize civilian casualties. And the second, they want to commandeer the humanitarian aid and bring it to their underground terror tunnels. And we want it to reach the Palestinian population. So the blame should be laid squarely at Hamas's door. And instead, I find it both cynical and wrong, just factually wrong, to try to place the blame on Israel, which is doing everything it can to minimize.
It sounds pretty good.
Quickly.
Yeah.
Just really quickly, I know that there was more to
pretty
that and
reasonable.
everything, but we're getting ready to run out of time in a few minutes. I was just getting ready to mention really quickly, because we can talk about it tomorrow, that the Supreme Court, you'll love this, because you are in the legal space, extended a block on Texas law allowing police to arrest migrants and everything. So that's definitely something that came down. Alito extended that order, barring Texas from detaining migrants under SB 4 immigration law and everything. So they are still going through that process, but for right now, it has been blocked and everything. So they just did that earlier. I think that was yesterday and everything. And then, like I said earlier, we can talk about this later, because there's a whole conversation around abortion, which is a big issue that we talk about, but there are other countries that are making decisions around women's rights as well. And I mentioned Ghana earlier. I believe that was Ghana, if I remember my countries correctly.
I thought it was Gambia.
Gambia, you're right. It was Gambia. Right. You are correct.
Right. But Netanyahu seemed like he was pretty reasonable. Remember, he is MIT graduate, so he actually went to school over here. And war is messy. No matter how you play the game, there's going to be collateral damage. So I think they're trying to do the best they can over there, but they're in a very difficult situation.
I think they have to, again, it goes back to, I think they have to rethink their tactics. They have to, because as he pointed out or as he stated and then danced around, for example, the food issue, because that was a big one. Before that is when they asked the question about the elections. But the food issue, how he danced around and said, well, we're letting more in. But when he was told that there's this whole desert and the starvation, he didn't really have a coherent answer around that. And then when he talked about, we've destroyed everything, destroyed Hamas in the north. And then she points out, well, why don't you let more in? Well, Hamas is still stealing in the north. But you just stated you cannot keep demonizing the people that are starving and dying. At some point, you've got to help them. And that's where the problem is because right now, his right-wing coalition that's there is still on the idea of and it is offensive in both ways. Both groups use it now, and it is still offensive for both. The idea that Israel wants, and this is what Netanyahu said, not what I am saying. This is what Netanyahu said. He wants Israel from the river to the sea. That is just as offensive
When did you
as the Palestinian. Wait, Sasha, let me finish. That is just as offensive as people who support Hamas and others who want to destroy all of Israel, saying from the river to the sea.
When did
Yet
Netanyahu
Netanyahu said it, and that is just as offensive, because now you're saying that those individuals, that's why that mindset of, well, it's just Hamas. It's always Hamas. It's not. There are innocent people starving and dying. There's a kid that they've done interviews where there's a kid sitting in a hospital dying. Do you not want to help that kid? Is that
Yeah, a
kid
6-year-old can't be Hamas, and a 4-year-old cannot be Hamas.
Well, there's innocent people dying in the United States. There's people who are dying starvation in the United States.
Yeah, but
I don't get your
not
point.
1.5.
Okay.
We haven't killed 1.5. The proportion killing 30,000 in Palestine is like killing 5 million in America.
And then on
Toby mentioned the gang analogy earlier and everything, because that gang analogy can be very
don't we have to go to Russia? China,
we have to go to Sasha, so I was going to say let's wrap up and let's get ready to go.
I'll wrap up. Go ahead. And get
over there.
started.
Yes.
Go ahead and get them started over there, Mark. I'll go wrap this up. Okay.
Thank you.
So this way we'll be taken care of, and we'll see everybody next week. Sometimes it does take a while to find this place, but adios, amigos, baby.